Welcome back to the cryptoworld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is still running into this important line of support while prices remain range-bound in the shorter term. But while this is happening, we have some major Bitcoin news today, which I'll talk about in just a moment, so definitely stick around. First of all, starting off with some Bitcoin news today, because today, Europe's first spot Bitcoin ETF just launched, and this is bullish for Bitcoin's longer-term future, because basically, if traditional investors can now buy a spot Bitcoin ETF, which is backed by Bitcoin, then this can potentially increase the demand for actual Bitcoin rather than a derivative of Bitcoin, like a leveraged futures ETF, for example. Because, for example, right now in the US, there are only futures Bitcoin ETFs. There's no spot Bitcoin ETFs currently in the US, which basically means if you're buying into these futures Bitcoin ETFs, it's not really creating any actual demand for the real Bitcoin. And instead, you're essentially buying a different product altogether. You're buying a derivative of Bitcoin. But the difference between that and a spot Bitcoin ETF is, once again, a spot Bitcoin ETF is meant to be backed by actual Bitcoin. So essentially, if the demand for the spot Bitcoin ETF increases, then whoever's managing that spot Bitcoin ETF needs to go ahead and buy more actual Bitcoin on the spot market, which obviously increases Bitcoin's price over time. And so once again, this now means that Europe will see a spot Bitcoin ETF trading before the US sees a spot Bitcoin ETF actually trading. And in case you're wondering, this Bitcoin ETF will be managed by Jacoby Asset Management, which is a London-based company. And this first spot Bitcoin ETF will be listed on Euronext Amsterdam, which once again is the first spot Bitcoin ETF to be listed in Europe. So overall, once again, this is bullish for Bitcoin's longer term future because it shows adoption is steadily increasing. But what it also means is that the United States is once again falling behind the rest of the world. So as I said over here on Twitter, the US needs to catch up soon because it is falling behind in all of these Bitcoin spot ETFs. And obviously, the real bullish news will come if the US actually approves an official spot Bitcoin ETF from a company like BlackRock, for example, because obviously those are the big companies that manage trillions of dollars. So even if just 1% of their assets under management flow into Bitcoin, that obviously is a big deal. But anyway, with the hopium aside, getting into the Bitcoin chart, this is on the 4-day Bitcoin chart. And as of right now, nothing has really changed here on this chart, on this time frame, over the last 1 day. So if you're new to the channel and you want to know more about this chart right here, then check out my last video on this channel. But anyway, now getting into the daily Bitcoin chart, and once again, this bearish divergence is still technically playing out on the daily time frame because as of right now, we have not yet invalidated this bearish divergence by seeing signals like, for example, a breakout in the RSI above this descending line of resistance. So this basically means we're still currently taking a bit of a pause from that larger multi-month long bullish trend, which on the smaller time frames looks a bit more like a short-term bearish trend. And now if you're looking at the daily Bitcoin MACD, this is also still looking extremely flat, showing very low momentum, which once again means we should not be expecting massive movements in the short term, and instead we're likely going to see relatively mild price action in the shorter term, like I've been saying almost every day over the last few weeks, which has been playing out as expected. And now just staying on the daily Bitcoin chart, taking a look at this massive ascending line of support that started since the beginning of this year. And right now, as I've recorded this video, and like I said in my last video, the price of Bitcoin is currently testing this important line of support, which is sitting at approximately $29,000. So once again, like I said in my last video, if history were to simply repeat and we were to see a bounce from this line of support like all of these other times, then potentially within the next 1 week or so, we could begin to see another move back to the upsides. But if this time is really different and we actually see a confirmed break below this line of support, below around $29,000, then obviously that would be a short-term bearish signal pointing towards a continued pause or pullback within this larger bullish trend. But even in that case, that does not necessarily invalidate the larger bullish trend. And if you want to know the invalidation for that bullish trend, then check out my last video on the channel because I talked about that on the larger timeframes. But anyway, if you're zooming into the 8-hour Bitcoin chart, looking at the Fibonacci retracement tool, we still have the 38.2% Fibonacci level of support sitting at approximately 28.9k to 29k. And as for shorter term resistance, we still have this Fibonacci level of resistance sitting at around $30,000. So at least for now, while the price of Bitcoin is in between around 29k to 30k, we're still looking relatively neutral in the short term, basically chopping around sideways in a sideways price range. But even in a sideways price range just like this, you can still make a lot of money very easily. And if you want to know how to do that, then stick around to the end of this video to find out more. But first, taking a look at this 8-hour Bitcoin chart, and technically speaking, this shorter term bullish divergence is still currently active on the 8-hour time frame. And so once again, this still means that the price of Bitcoin is basically taking a pause or short-term bullish relief from this short-term bearish trend. And so overall, for the price of Bitcoin on the much larger time frames, once again, we are currently still trending bullish, as I've been saying since the beginning of this year. But in the shorter term, on the larger time frames, we're taking a bit of a pause from that bullish trend, which if you zoom into the smaller time frames, that pause from the larger bullish trend looks more like a short-term bearish trend here on the smaller time frames. And right now in the imminent short term, we're basically taking a bit of a pause from that short-term bearish trend, which is basically resulting in the price of Bitcoin looking relatively neutral in the immediate short term. As I said earlier, we're basically chopping around sideways in a sideways price range. But anyway, now getting into the Ethereum part of this video, this is on the daily ETH to US dollar chart, and right now the price of ETH is still trading just above this important area of support, still sitting in between 1770 to 1820. And as for the daily Ethereum price oscillators, right now these are both looking extremely neutral because the RSI is basically chopping around it sideways while the MACD is showing almost no momentum at all. So like I've been saying almost every day over the last couple of weeks, we're likely going to see relatively mild price action in the short term, nothing too significant, which obviously has been playing out as expected. And now if you're looking at the 8-hour time frame, right now the price of ETH, once again like Bitcoin on the 8-hour time frame, is essentially in a choppy sideways price range in between this 50% retracement level acting as support, which is sitting at around 1820 to 1830, and this 38.2% Fibonacci level of resistance sitting at around 1870 to 1880. And these other levels of support and resistance have not changed over the last one day. So if you want to know those other levels, then check out my last video on the channel. And now if you're zooming into the 6-hour ETH to US dollar chart, we also have this descending line right here, which was previous resistance and is now acting as new support. And this is sitting in between around 1820 to 1830, right where this 50% retracement level of support was sitting at as well. And just taking another look at that 6-hour time frame, we also have a shorter term bullish divergence technically still active on this 6-hour time frame. So once again, like I explained for Bitcoin, this is basically resulting in a bit of a pause from this short-term bearish trend in the price of ETH. So in the immediate short term, we're looking relatively neutral with very low momentum. And now if you want to know how to make a lot of money in crypto, no matter if the price is bullish, bearish, or simply chopping around it sideways like right now, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how to make money if the price is bullish or bearish using AI, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from a choppy sideways price range. But anyway, that's everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.